Ghana will play in their second successive World Cup finals after qualifying for South Africa 2010 with 2 games to spare. In 2006, they were the only African team to get beyond the group stages, and they will be confident of making an impression on the tournament again. Ghana faced 2 rounds of qualifying to reach South Africa. In the first section, they were drawn alongside Gabon, Libya and Lesotho. Winning 4 out of the 6 matches was enough to see them progress. In the third and final round of qualifying, Ghana were paired with Benin, Mali and Sudan and were favourites to win the group. They began in March 2009 with a 1-0 win against Benin. Successive 2-0 wins against Mali and Sudan continued their excellent campaign. A third successive 2-0 win thanks to goals from Michael Essien and Sully Muntari, and 3 wins from 3 ensured Ghana became the first African nation to qualify. That meant they could relax for the last 2 games, and that they did, losing 1-0 in Benin and finishing off their campaign with a 2-2 draw against Mali. Anthony Annan scoring a late equaliser to rescue a point. Ghana finished up 3 points clear of second place Benin despite their late wobble. Their lineup is filled with household names who ply their trade in Europe's top leagues. The likes of Michael Essien, Stephen Appiah, Sully Muntari and John Mensah won't be fazed by the prospect of appearing on world football's biggest stage. Ghana will be optimistic that they can again outperform their African counterparts.
Greece will be participating in just their second ever World Cup finals at South Africa 2010. Otto Rehagel's team did it the hard way, qualifying via the playoffs after finishing second in Group 2. Greece were paired with Switzerland, Israel, Latvia, Luxembourg and Moldova when the draw for the group stages was made. They began in September 2008 with a trip to Luxembourg. Rehagel's side led 2-0 at the break after Vasilis Torosidis and Theofanis Gekas found the net. A second-half penalty from Angelos Haristeas made sure of a comfortable win. 4 days later, Greece made another successful away trip. A 2-0 win against Latvia maintained their 100% start. This time, Gekas scored twice, taking his tally to 3 goals in 2 games. A month later, Greece played their first home game of qualification. Moldova were the visitors, and they too were beaten with ease. Haristeas was twice on target, and Konstanios Katsiranis also got his name on the scoresheet. Greece had made the perfect start to qualification, winning their opening 3 games without conceding a goal. Switzerland inflicted a first defeat of the campaign on Rehagel's team in the next game, 2-1 the scoreline in Athens. Despite the loss, Greece remained top of Group 2 with 9 points from 4 games. Israel were a point behind in second, while Switzerland were third. 5 months later, qualifying resumed in Ramat Gan as Greece played Israel in what proved a tough away fixture. Theofanis Gekas again proved his worth by putting them in front 4 minutes before half-time. Israel drew level soon after the break to ensure the game ended all square. The sides met again 4 days later. This time Greece claimed all 3 points. Dimitrios Salpingidis' blistering strike gave them the advantage. Israel equalised just short of the hour mark, but Greece won the match 8 minutes later. Georgios Samaras scored from the penalty spot just 3 minutes after coming off the bench. Greece still led the way in Group 2, but only goal difference separated them from Switzerland, with the side set to meet in Basel after the summer break. A crucial away game which would go a long way to deciding the winners of Group 2 then, and Greece left disappointed. Their task was made all the more difficult when Lukas Vintra was sent off 3 minutes before half-time after picking up a second yellow card. Despite the man advantage, a stubborn Greek defence looked like they'd claim a point until 2 late goals. Switzerland top of the group with 16 points to Greece's 13. Another tough away match with more late misery followed. Gekas put Greece a goal up in Moldova, but they were undone by an injury-time equaliser. With only 2 games of the campaign remaining, Switzerland were firm favourites to win the group. Despite the setback, Greece were intent on at least securing second place and a 5-2 demolition of Latvia in the penultimate group game moved them a step closer to achieving that. The ever-impressive Gekas was again the star of the show, scoring 4 goals. He was to end the campaign as the top scorer in Europe. With 1 game left to play, Greece trailed Switzerland by 3 points, but held a 2-point lead over third-placed Israel. Switzerland earned the point they needed in their final qualifier, whilst Greece again beat Luxembourg to ensure they finished as runners-up. Greece was seeded for the playoff draw and were paired with Ukraine. The first leg took place in Athens, and Greece were frustrated after being held to a goalless draw. Gekas and Samaras both spurned chances to give Greece the advantage before the trip to Donetsk in the Ukraine 4 days later. The second leg, though, was to prove a famous night in the history of Greek football. An early goal from Salpingidis proved enough to earn Greece a place at the World Cup finals. The Greek defence was superb in denying their opponents and ensuring their country would appear in just their second ever World Cup. Greece's World Cup record is appalling. Their only appearance in the finals back in 1994 saw them lose all 3 of their games, conceding 10 goals and failing to score. Much has changed since then. Otto Rehhagel proved himself one of international football's finest tacticians when he masterminded Greece's shock success in the 2004 European Championships. And he's retained the core of the squad which achieved that sensational triumph. Expect Greece to give a much better account of themselves in their second World Cup finals appearance than they did in their first.
Honduras endured a nail-biting road to South Africa 2010 that ended in celebration as the country reached the finals for only the second time in their history. After failing to reach the group stage, though, for the 2006 World Cup qualification campaign, the Honduran supporters were delighted when Puerto Rico were overcome 6-2 on aggregate in the Round 2 playoff. In Round 3, a group containing difficult opponents Mexico, plus improving nations Jamaica and Canada, was negotiated with real style. 4 wins and 2 draws saw Honduras finish top, with Colombian coach Reynaldo Rueda seeing his talented young squad unbeaten into the start of the 4th and final round. The final group would provide a stern examination of the Honduran World Cup credentials, with Mexico, the USA, El Salvador, Trinidad and Tobago and Costa Rica the rivals for 3 automatic qualification spots. Honduras began their journey to South Africa with a 2-0 defeat against Costa Rica. A 1-1 draw in the Caribbean followed, with Trinidad and Tobago's 88th minute equaliser denying Honduras a first win in round 4. It would be third time lucky, though, for Honduras, who refound their free-flowing football at home to Mexico. Carlos Costly scored the first goal of the game on 17 minutes. Carlos Pavón added to that advantage just before half-time. And after the break, Costly's second was to prove invaluable for Honduras. Neri Castillo's consolation goal wasn't enough to keep Mexico coach Sven-Göran Eriksson in a job, and he was promptly sacked following the game. For Honduras, though, it was a win that ignited their qualification challenge. Next was a narrow loss away to the USA. Home victories against El Salvador and Costa Rica kept up momentum, and a 4-1 win against Trinidad and Tobago saw their side go joint top of the qualifying group with the USA. Despite reaching the summit of the group, the next 2 matches will provide drama late on in the campaign. A loss away in Mexico was compounded by defeat at home to the United States, leaving Honduras needing a win in their final game in El Salvador to have any hope of reaching the finals automatically. Reynaldo Rueda's side also needed a favour from the USA versus Costa Rica, who needed a win to grab the final place in the South Africa 2010 draw. Carlos Pavón's 7th goal of the qualifying campaign was enough to give Honduras the win they needed, but most of the drama was saved until the final whistle, when news filtered through that with Costa Rica 2-1 up in the USA, the result would probably mean that the Hondurans would miss out on an automatic spot. A 95th minute equaliser, though, thousands of kilometres away, sparked celebrations amongst the away fans. A 2-2 draw for Costa Rica meant heartache for them, but delight for Honduras as they squeezed into the World Cup finals for the first time since 1982. An exciting set of players under the orders of an experienced coach will prove to be a difficult opponent for anyone in South Africa, and
And with many players now plying their trade in Europe's top leagues, an appearance in the knockout stage should not at all be considered as being beyond the realms of possibility.